everyone. So it's another week, another Tech Talk session with me, your host from Tech Jobs Fair, Tripti Sinha. And today we are going to dive into a very exciting discussion that's going to be game changing for your careers, especially if you want to switch industries. So today we are joined by very special guest, Miss Sandra Munyoro. She is a corporate skills and life coach with years of management and technology consulting experience, successfully bringing organization development and software implementation projects to life for global corporations. Hello, Sandra. How are you doing today? Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Tripti. I'm doing really great, and I'm of course excited to be here to share something that's hopefully going to be really transformational for someone's career.
Absolutely. We have so many people out there in the audience who might be wondering, how they can switch industries, how they can switch roles while switching industries. So I'm super excited to, go through this conversation with you.
Yeah.
So before we dive into our questions and our conversations, let's take a moment for you to uncover your journey, and maybe you could share a little about it with us.
Yeah, so my journey is a long story with many highs and lows, but the long and short of it is I come from Zimbabwe, so in the most southern part of Africa. And I moved here, young, ambitious, wanting to do what I was taught to do, which is go to school, get the job, and take care of myself and my family. And along that journey, like many others, I hit a couple of roadblocks. And that was mostly to do with understanding how can I explain to people what I've learned, what I'm capable of, and do it in such a way that one, they'd be willing to hire me and pay me well, and also that I have the job of my choice, the company of my choice, and a work life balance that I want for myself. And it's been a long journey where at some point I've even decided that I would not work with corporate. But through coaching, I've been able to process that. And so much so that for the past 3 years, I've been working with other ambitious young professionals, helping them to figure out how to do corporate right for themselves. And at the same time, working with organizations to make them places that people want to go to and also perform as high performers.
Awesome. So, did you yourself also go through any transformation or career transformation, that made you think maybe you could be an expert in that, and then share your insights with other, upcoming professionals who are looking for switches?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been working in corporate now for 10 years.
Hmm.
Crazy to think. And I've, by nature of my work as a consultant, had to work in many different industries, right? You go where the work is. And that's a skill you have to learn. You have to understand, like I said before, what you're capable of and be able to explain it to people. And with time, I've worked in the automotive industry, in the financial industry, I've worked in insurance, I've worked with cybersecurity experts, and I'm in a position where I can always reinvent myself or present certain aspects of myself that allow me to deliver value despite the industry. And so that's most of the work that I do with my clients.
Awesome. So, yeah, I have my first question for you, right? But before that, to all of our viewers, if you have any questions that's related to the topic, or as we move along, if you come across any question, please feel free to comment down your questions and we are happy to answer them. And then not me, of course, Sandra. But yeah, I can deliver your questions to her.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
ready.
let's start this off with the importance of the topic that we are about to cover, right? Why is it so relevant?
So many reasons, but I'll share three things.
Mhm.
So, if you're paying attention to Europe and Germany in particular, you'll have noticed that it's an exciting time. There are a lot of changes being made, even at a national level, to make it easier for individuals with a migration background to come here and also to stay here.
Mhm.
And the background to that is the very high shortage of skilled labor and forecasts that show that it's not about to get any better, right? Unless we make some drastic changes.
Right.
And maybe to make it more tangible, a study by the IW, the Institute for Wirtschaft in Cologne from 2 years ago, showed that around April, there were about 500,000 jobs in the MINT STEM sector, so jobs focusing on tech, um, mathematics, engineering, natural sciences. And at the same time, there were about 180,000 people registered as unemployed who would be willing to do
Yeah.
that kind of work, right? So what a mismatch. And some of those people lack the experience to, present themselves as capable in doing that work. So
Mhm.
imagine if we're able to help people to make their transition and match our skills to the very budding job market, right? The second thing is um, it's an interesting topic right now with the emergence of tools like AI that support
Yeah.
us to perform jobs better. For example, in my case, I worked a lot in software implementation, but I was not the programmer, right? It's something I learned, never really mastered. And there are many roles that I had to pass. They're just not an option for me because I was not as technically gifted as my developer colleagues, and it was just not intuitive and not easy for me, right? But now looking forward, if I invest the time to use these supporting tools, it opens so many more doors for me, right? And that's the case for many other people. And lastly, I'll mention that there's almost a palpable feeling that the current generation is really willing to wait for and fight for only those jobs that give us the work-life balance, not just that we want, we need it.
Yeah.
Working from home is a big topic. Digital nomadism is on the rise. We want to work, but we want to travel, right? We're more than the
Exactly.
jobs that we do. And the reality is that some industries are not ready for that. That's just the way it is.
Mhm.
And tech roles, for example, are more flexible in that regard, which makes them more attractive. And so that's an important consideration when thinking about your next career step. So
Mhm.
overall, just mastering this art of changing industries and career transformation in general is like it's going to be a deciding factor about whether we'll be able to close employment gaps as an economy, and then also on a more personal level, if we can achieve the work and lifestyle that we desire.
Right. So let's say, we have a professional who's looking forward to change the industry, of course. But do you also suggest that, it's only the industry that's switching, or what if they want to switch their roles as well, right? Because we see a lot of vacancies right now in tech, but also people feel like, they're not getting hired. It's a tough competition, right? But of course, there are a lot of open like roles. So
Mm.
what do you suggest? Is it just about switching industries, or like keeping their current role, or they can also plan on switching roles if they wish to?
Yeah, I think the tools, and those are the tools that I share with my clients, are basically the same. So regardless of whether you're just talking about an industry shift or a move within the same industry, the first part is you're going to feel that need for change. That's how it might be time to do something. And the typical feelings or thoughts are my compensation doesn't align with what I'm delivering or what I'm capable of, or I don't feel seen, I don't feel heard, or I have the Monday blues from Monday to Friday. I just want to feel good again and safe and motivated in the place that I work. So that's the first part, figuring out what you don't want anymore, what you want to leave behind. And this often requires you to invest the time away from your hamster wheel, as they call it. And in coaching, we call it a container. So you need to get
Mhm.
into a safe space where your focus is on reflecting on this without the noise of daily life. And then the second thing that you want to do is you want to figure out what it is that you're working towards, right? You know what you want to leave behind. like I said, that's the easier part. But you want to figure out what you're working towards in terms of compensation, your relationship with work, colleagues, the culture of the organization, of the team, of the leadership, right? And once you have clarity on that, you will know if your current trajectory, the one that you're on, is going to give you, now or in the future, what it is that you want. And if not, it's time to move on. You know, I call it soul searching before job searching, right? And we have a
Right.
privilege here to be able to design and pursue the work life integration that we want. And we certainly don't tap into it enough.
Right. Because one should have an idea of, what kind of life they want or what exactly excites them, in order to be consistent in a, let's say, a job environment or work environment. Because they cannot force to be someone, or they cannot, force themselves to work for 5 years, 6 years. After a certain time, they're going to hit that brick, and then they'll just be like, I don't know what to do. And then, they also realize that they have not been enjoying their lives like along
Exactly.
that time.
You know,
So,
absolutely, Chipsy. We spend so many hours in the workplace. In Germany, it's an average of 8 hours a day. And
mhm,
then think about all the time we spend thinking about work, so preparing for it, traveling to work. It's a really big part of our lives. And so it's really important that we start to think about how can we do this better for ourselves.
exactly. Because time right now is very, very important, because sometimes you're just 2 hours to 3 hours is going for traveling, and then 8 hours of work, and then you have nothing left because you also have to sleep for 6 to 7 hours at least.
You should.
So there's no time for you to work on yourself personally, right? Because you're so much involved professionally. So let's now, one big question would be the experience. Would it
Yeah.
matter? Would it count, right? And the resume that you go with, for maybe different industry or different role,
Yeah.
right? Because you've had, let's say, experience of 4 to 5 years in certain field, but then now you want to switch your roles. You may be seen as a fresher altogether, but how can they, convert their past experience to their new, journey?
Yeah. Yes, very important topic. So all your experiences can be relevant and can end up on your resume. The big task is to figure out how they're relevant. And a common error with job seekers is to just fill their resume with all their achievements and accolades and just feed it to the recruiter and hiring managers. You have to do the work. And that involves taking the time to look at these roles, see what's out there, understand the expectations, maybe even reach out to some people who are working in that industry, who are experts in that sector, and can give you some insights about what that work entails, right? And once you've understood this, you can work on a resume that highlights your transferable skills. And with that, you can show how you can deliver value from day one, even in a different industry. You understand the problems of the organization, you can help them solve them. They will be willing to take you on.
Right. So, when we also talk about switches, I'm like, initially it used to happen that way, that, if on your resume your work duration for certain companies in less than, let's say, 8 months or 10 months, and then you keep switching your roles or companies every 10 months, then it might show like a negative impact on your resume. Like that was a kind of a belief, early. But then right now I see a lot of people switching roles to look for growth or change, right? So do you
Yeah.
have anything to say on that? Like, does that actually leave a negative impact, switching roles every 10 months, 1 year, or is it different now?
I would definitely say that there's a better understanding of the different types of situations that people go through, right? It can be anything from medical or something to do with education. And it's also not a secret now that there are so many toxic environments that you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. Um, but it would be naive to say that it has absolutely no impact, right? It is still considered a red, if not a little pink flag. Um, so the work is on both sides, right? This is why I talk about working with individuals so that you have the confidence and the ability to communicate that situation, and assure the company where you're going that you're not going to be a problem,
Yeah,
basically, right? You have to be able to anticipate their concerns and find ways to reassure them that if they also honor their side of the bargain, right, that you're willing and able to do good work. And on the sides of the organizations, we have to continue to understand how many dimensions there are, and all the different things that might impact people, right? So there has to also there be more understanding and more willingness to have the discussion.
exactly. Because especially for freshers, because they're still looking out for, what job excites them. And like they finish the graduation or everything, and then they
Right.
really need to figure out, what work do they enjoy, right? Because earlier we used to have like English honors and this and BA. Right now we have so many professional courses going on. First of all,
Mhm.
it's so difficult to choose. And everything's becoming digital, and then now AI. I think schools will start incorporating AI in their syllabus. I feel so that in the
Yeah,
coming year, right, you don't have to wait for your graduation and upskilling it outside your school. I think schools will only involve it in the syllabus and the curriculum moving forward. So especially for
exactly.
freshers, right, like because they're looking for their comfort job, because they want to be comfortable in what they're doing, right? And
Hmm.
can you suggest something, especially for freshers or like professional who are at the early stage of career? Like, can they spend a little more time figuring out what they want, or experimenting on different companies and different roles is a good option?
Okay. I wouldn't use the word experimenting, but I think the very first thing that we need to work on, and it's individually and also as a community,
Mhm.
is to stop adding pressure to the job search or the decision about in which direction you want to go, because a lot of the pressure, the anxiety, which is why this question probably came up, is this feeling that the decision you make is set in stone, right? If I
Mhm.
decide to go into IT, I'm committing to a marriage with the IT industry, and that shouldn't be the case. You definitely have to invest the time, like we spoke about before, to achieve that clarity, right? What are the
Mhm.
kinds of things that I'm interested in right now, where I feel like I'm motivated to learn, but also able to deliver value? Because, by the way, organizations don't hire people to learn, right? We hire people to come and work, to contribute something. Um, so figure that out. And that's something that might change along the way. And then you, like myself and many other people, might switch roles within the same industry or switch to a different industry.
Mhm.
You just need to be able to always reflect on where you are, learn what your skills are, and again, talk to people about how they can be applied in whatever's now of interest to you.
Right. So I think now this brings to me to the very important question. How can professionals work on the negotiation while switching industries?
The salaries, right?
And yes, the salary.
Compensation and benefits, a very big topic. Um, So this is also related to the issue we just addressed. The challenge with maintaining a good salary when you switch industries is this perceived lack of experience, right? So again, the focus here must be to understand what the needs of the company, the team, the manager are, and be able to make that connection, right? How can you make valuable contributions to them? Because again, organizations pay for problem solving and value delivery, right? This number of years that you've been doing something is just something that we use as a gauge to see, to sort of estimate how much have you already managed to solve in terms of problems in the
Yeah.
organization. How much have you seen? And if you're able to make that connection for people, understand it for yourself so you can explain it to others, then you will achieve the salary that you want. And one other thing to look out for, also a common error during the job search, is using your previous or current salary to determine your next salary. And I know it's a
Mhm.
common question posed by recruiters, right? They ask you, so what's your current salary? I get that. But we want to do better. So your salary expectations must be based on this looking forward mindset, the soul
Mhm.
searching we spoke about. Take the time to understand, where am I trying to be? What does that look like in terms of numbers, right? Really even take the time to work maybe even with a financial advisor, because 60,000, 90,000, 100,000, in the end, it's just a number if you don't know why you're looking for that number, right?
Yeah,
And once you master this, you can be leapfrogging to where you want and deserve to be.
absolutely. But sometimes, especially when they have these current salary and expected salary, right?
Yeah.
So it's while applying for the job. So it's like the first step, before getting an interview or anything. So when there's like a, let's say, vast range from your current and your expected, does that not already, maybe a chance that your CV might not get shortlisted because one, you're switching industry, so your experience don't really align, and then there's again like a vast gap between your current and expected salary numbers. So does that really affect the process of the job search?
It can, because unfortunately, organizations still use that the same way we spoke about experience, right? We
Mhm.
still use that as a signal to see how much value was this person delivering. Oh, they were delivering about 45,000 euros worth of value. But that is incorrect, because one of the leading reasons why we want to move on to other roles is because we're underpaid, right? We know what we're delivering and we're not being paid the right thing. Therefore, it's so faulty to think that the 45,000 speaks to what my contributions are, right?
Right.
So, again, it's something that we can't completely neglect. My advice is actually that your salary has no place on your CV, right?
Hmm.
That is not a representation of my skills. And therefore, there's no place for that. I negotiate what's right for me right now. And again, I focus on what I'm able to deliver.
Exactly. And like once you get to the point of, coming on one-on-one interview, I think that's much more convenient and easier for you to, show your value. But, while going through that job search and those easy applies on LinkedIn, and then that with that, you have to do it. A compulsory thing of, putting in your salary, I think sometimes, might be an issue for freshers, of course, right? Because they have a lot of, or early stage
And also for experienced professionals. That's why I say, especially in this area of coaching, um, it's not possible to just pretend that we don't have flaws in the recruiting processes. But all we can do on the side of the job seeker is to make sure that you're able to communicate and explain things like that. If I were to tell you that I earn 45,000, I'm gonna make it very clear to you that this is very much beneath what I've been delivering. And that's one of the leading reasons as to why I had to leave my organization, right? And any manager who's in an organization that's capable of paying you above that will understand and be able to do that. And I also say this with confidence, even if it's not easy, because I've seen those transformations for myself and for other people, where you make drastic increases in your compensation. So there's
yeah,
skills that will help
that's
you. You might hit some roadblocks, but it's possible.
exactly. And just keep up the hard work. Yeah, keep grinding for it. Earlier you mentioned about like how we find our soul before we find the job role. That was really interesting and something different to hear, right? Especially in terms of the
Yeah.
professional side, looking for your soul. And then while someone's planning on switching their career, Now,
Yeah.
and this might be a little off the topic. I'm not really sure, but I want to put it forward because I have
Let's
this
go for it.
curiosity. So, while switching roles, when you're applying for jobs, like we already mentioned, like you can put
Mhm.
your past experience, make it in your new experience, right? But um how can that actually happen? How can they put their experience, let's say from sales, maybe they upskilled themselves, they learned a little about developing and everything, so now they want to
Mhm.
apply for developers role because they have added skills. So how, because that's a complete different roles, right? They're switching for, because right now tech, digital, everything is working
Yeah.
so much. So how can they implement that, their sales, for example, what do you call it, experience, to, let's say, into something into IT, tech, as
Yeah.
a techie?
Okay. So we cannot come up with things that are not there, right? So if you were not programming before, we're not going to be able to talk about programming in your previous roles. But
Mhm.
when you think about the role of, I think you said a developer, right?
Yeah,
Right. Um, that's why you take the time to understand what is the day in the life of a developer. What is he doing? And typically, a developer is not just sitting in front of a computer, right, and writing code. There are conversations to be had with people. There's a need for the ability to communicate with different stakeholders, to understand requirements, to be able to communicate if something's not feasible um, to the business people, right? To be able to be a brainstorming partner.
yeah,
And if you look now at your sales experience, you can think about the tasks that you did then. Was there communication involved? Typically in sales, yes. Were you solving problems for your clients? Typically, yes. Were you looking at different solutions and discussing them with the client? Typically, yes. So you need to find that area where your sales tasks meet these tasks of a developer, and this little area in between, those are the things that overlap is what belongs on your resume and in your interview conversations.
interesting. What meets meets the midway, right, from both the
Exactly.
roles. So I think this brings to my final question for you.
Yeah.
Is it ever too late to make a change, especially professionally?
Right. The easy answer is no, but as you might have noticed, I like to keep it real with you. So it would be naive to pretend that staying longer in situations that are toxic, that teach you to accept that to be the norm, where it's normal for you to be underpaid, where just going to work is the most horrible thing and you spend the days trauma bonding, that definitely makes finding the strength and achieving the mindset for successful change much harder, right? So the sooner, the better. Um, but I would still say, even in the most difficult situations, such as a lack of experience, language limitations, disability, ageism, it requires work, but a career transformation is possible, right? You have to put in the work, which is, do what others don't to get what others won't. Love that saying.
Wonderful. And I think those insights were absolutely wonderful and lovely. Thank you so much, Sandra. But, because we do have time constraints, which is why we have to bring the session to an end. But we will, of course, meet again, come back with maybe another topic in the future to discuss with our audience, right? But before we wrap this session up,
Yeah.
is there anything that you want to add from your end? Any tip to our viewers, our job seekers, or our
It's
career
been
changers?
Yeah. Firstly, thank you to you and to Tech Talks. It's been an absolute pleasure, and the work that you do is really instrumental in these career transformations. Um, the last thing I would say is that the steps I spoke about can be quite overwhelming to do by yourself. So there are resources out there, such as different career coaches like myself, and particularly in Germany, there are other resources provided even by the state, which are available even to foreign nationals. So, like I said before, it's a privilege, and I would just
Mhm.
encourage everyone to make use of these privileges.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sandra, once again for joining us and sharing your knowledge and insights with us. And for all of our viewers, if you're looking for events, if you're job searchers, then you can visit our website techjobsfair.com and check out our events that's coming up. And it could be maybe the first step for you to land your dream job. Thank you, everyone, for watching us today. And until next time, take care. Bye bye.
Ms. Tripti, bye.
Bye bye.